Assalamualaikum and greeting to all our listeners. Welcome to podcast Meja Bulat. Today our podcast title is VAT in Sweden, Body Finance through Taxation. I am Fira, a final year student majoring in public economy, and today I will be your moderator. Joining me today are three panelists with expertise in their respective fields. So let me introduce them. First we have Arif, the next one we have Natra, and the last one we have Farid.
Thank you, Fira. I'm Arif, a final year student who acts as a financial and tax analysis with a special interest in tax policy and public finance. VAT is a topic close to my heart, especially from the perspective of revenue collection and impact on the economy.
Hello everyone, thank you Fira. This is me Natra, a researcher specializing in social politics and social welfare. It's really interesting to see how taxes like VAT are not just about collecting money, but also instrument to help society.
Hello, thanks Vera. I'm Farid, a final year student who is also a global economic policy analysis. I'm excited to share insight, especially when we discuss tax avoidance and evasion across different countries.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Now, to begin, we'll be focusing on a major type of tax, which is the value-added tax, and as to how it operates in Sweden's tax system. So, Arif, could you start with a brief explanation?
Sure. VAT is a consumption tax imposed on goods and services. Simply put, consumers pay this tax when they buy something. In Sweden, VAT is incredibly important. It contributes nearly one-third of the government total tax revenue.
Exactly. What interesting is that in Sweden, VAT is not just a way to generate money. It's a fundamental tool to fund public service like free education, universal healthcare, and social welfare. So why people pay VAT, they can clearly see the return in public benefit.
If we look at the VAT rate structure, Sweden uses a two-tier system. The first one, a standard rate of 25% for most good and service. And the second one is 12% for item like food, transport, and accommodation. And then lastly, reducing rate of 6% for newspaper, books, and culture events.
What's really smart here is how lower rates are applied to socially valuable items like books and arts. This aligns with Sweden welfare philosophy.
Also important is that tax base. In Sweden, the VAT base is very broad. Nearly all goods and services are taxed except a few assumptions like healthcare and education. This reduces levelers and increase compliance.
From technical standpoint, VAT is collected in stage across the supply chain. That means producer, wholesaler, and retailer are collect and remit VAT, but it's only applied on the value added at each stage.
Oh, so the VAT system in Sweden is not only structured but efficient, right? So generating revenue without placing all the burden on just one party.
Right, and this balance helps Sweden maintain trust in the tax system. When citizens feel the taxation is fair and meaningful, they are more likely to comply.
So, in summary, VAT in Sweden is more than just a tax mechanism. It reflects a social contract built on fairness, inclusivity, and public welfare.
Okay, now that we have unpacked the structure of VAT in Sweden, right? So now let's explore the core taxation principles such as equity, efficiency, and transparency, and the broader implication of VAT on the government, economy, and society. So Farid, what you like to start with the principle?
Of course, in taxation policy, equity means fairness, ensuring that those who earn more contribute more. Efficiency refers to a system that doesn't overly disrupt economic activity, and transparency means people should be able to clearly understand how tax are collected and where the money goes.
Exactly. In Sweden, these principles are not just theoretical, they are actively practiced. For example, citizens can easily access information about how tax money is used. That's a great example of high transparency.
And in terms of equity, even though VAT is a consumption tax and generally seen as regressive, Sweden's balanced this by using the tax revenue to support public services that benefit lower income groups the most. That redistributive fairness in action.
Wow, interesting point. And how about the VAT effect on government revenue and the economy?
VAT is actually one of Sweden's largest source of public revenue because it's a broad-based and difficult to avoid. It's highly effective. This strong and stable revenue stream help finance healthcare, education, and welfare programs.
From an economic perspective, VAT can influence consumer behavior. For example, if VAT is too high, demand for some good might decrease. But Sweden addresses this smartly by applying lower VAT rates to essential items like food and public transport.
And when we talk about social welfare, VAT plays a huge role. The revenue collected is reinvested into the people. Whether through child support, pension, or housing aid, it's more than tax, it's a reinvestment into the collective well-being.
Oh, so it's clear that VAT in Sweden is not just about generating income. It's a carefully designed tool to maintain fairness, efficiency, and trust in the tax system, while also supporting sustainable economic and social development. So now let's move on to a sensitive but important topic in taxation, which is tax avoidance and tax evasion. They sound similar, but they are very different legally and in their impact. So Natra, could you explain the difference between two?
Sure. Tax avoidance is the effort to reduce tax payment using legal method. For example, taking advantage of tax reduction or structuring finance in ways that minimize tax burden. It's illegal, but sometimes questioned ethically.
Whereas tax evasion is illegal, it involves hiding income, failing to report tax, or falsifying documents to avoid paying tax. This breaks the law and can result in penalties.
From the government revenue perspective, both cause loss, but tax evasion usually has a bigger impact because it directly break the tax collection system. In the developing country, revenue loss to evasion can reach billions.
Oh, so how about the public services and infrastructure level in different countries?
Comparing Sweden to countries like Indonesia, Sweden has a very strict enforcement and high compliance. Tax data is integrated with the digital ID system, making it hard to cheat.
But in countries with weaker oversight or transparency, tax evasion is more widespread. This weakens the government ability to provide quality public services like healthcare and education. Ultimately, ordinary citizens suffer.
And don't forget, even though tax avoidance is illegal, if aggressively used by big corporation, it can still undermine a fairness in the tax system.
Oh, so whether it's that avoidance or tax evasion would present major challenge for tax policy and government capacity, right? So what matter is how a country enforce law and ensure a transparent and fair system. Okay, we have discussed several important taxation principles such as equity, efficiency, and transparency. In brief, what are you guys going to summarize of this principle in the context of VAT?
For me, I believe these principles are fundamental to ensure the taxation system works efficiently. For example, equity ensures the tax burden is distributed fairly, while efficiency ensures tax collection does not overly disrupt the economy.
Oh yes, that's very important. So no group is unfairly burdened, right?
Right, and transparency is also crucial so that people understand how taxes are used and to prevent suspicion. This help improve tax compliance.
Agree, Natra. Without transparency, it's hard to build trust in the tax system.
Moreover, VAT play a major role in generating stable government revenue, following the government to provide quality and public service and support social welfare.
Exactly, Fira. Comparing Sweden and Indonesia, which we discussed earlier, what are the main difference in tax management and its impact?
Sweden excel in enforcement and technology use it in tax system, resulting in high compliance rates and strong tax revenue.
Meanwhile, Indonesia faces major challenge in controlling tax avoidance, which weakens the tax system and affect public service.
Oh, so it's very important for all countries to emphasize this taxation principle and take firm action to ensure a fair and sustainable tax system.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the Arif, Natra, and Farid for sharing your insight today. I hope our discussion has helped everyone to gain a clearer understanding of the key principle behind VAT and its effect on society on the economy. Remember, a fair and transparent tax system is crucial for sustainable development and social welfare. We encourage all our listeners to stay informed and support efforts to improve state fairness and compliance in their countries. That's all from us today. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you join us again in the next episode. See you soon. Bye bye.
We gon' run this town.